Hi, I'm Dr. Cornelia Franz of the Franz Center, and today's tutorial is on how to take vital signs on your child for your telehealth visits. For well visits, it is required that we have a height, a weight, a head circumference on children up to 2, a heart rate, a respiratory rate, and a temperature. For children over 3, we need a blood pressure. We are going to demonstrate how to do all of those except blood pressure on our tutorial today. So to begin with, our helper today is around 6 months old and obviously not a real child, okay? So on infants, what we want to do is we typically get a weight first, and we need them undressed for that so we can get an accurate naked weight. And we will do that up to about 15 months. Then, they begin to be funny. And so you can do it in a dry diaper, okay? And in the safety of your home, this should not be an issue. Older children, 2 and up, can be in just, shorts and a shirt, just something very minimal to get the proper weight. So you can have a scale at home. You can order one online inexpensively. I got this one for $30. You can also choose to weigh the child on an adult scale. So mom or dad, you weigh yourself, then you weigh yourself with the child, and then subtract the difference. That's not as accurate. And for really small children, really 0 to say 9 to 12 months, we really want an individual weight. And you can get a scale that has both this bucket, this basket, and it actually will sit on a base that when they're older, you can take the basket off and they can stand on it. If you want to put a blanket on it, you can put the blanket on first and then zero it out so the blanket's weight does not factor into the weight of the child. Then you place them gently on the scale, and most children do not like this. If they're old enough to sit up, 6 months and older, they may sit on the scale to be weighed. You wait for it to stop, and then you record that weight. All right. So they also don't like being naked. That's really the biggest thing, but clothes can just weigh too much and distort things. The next thing we want is the height. And we recommend a plastic mat, which again, you can get online. And this mat is really convenient because it's got this little headboard and a little footboard so that we can get an accurate weight. You're going to want to place the child's head up here, okay, touching this, okay, and then we're going to use the footboard up against the child's heel. Now, this is going to need to be straight, okay, or again, we get a distorted view. So we're going to place the child with the head just touching. We don't want to push so hard that it gives them a headache. And we also don't want them down here because obviously that's inaccurate. It sometimes takes 2 people if they're very squirmy. Then you straighten them out, it's their leg and the heel. Okay, we want the foot flex, not over flex, but in a doll, it's exaggerated. And then you take the measuring mat up against here, okay, the heel, because when we stand with our feet flat, right? And there's your height. Now, if you do not have access to a measuring mat, you can still do it the old-fashioned way. It's not as accurate, but it will do. And you can actually track your heights over time on a growth curve when we do our visits, because if your child was huge and now is little, now is huge, then we measured wrong, right? So the way that we do the old-fashioned way is you need, wrapping paper with the white side, or open paper bags, or just some kind of clear paper, not clear, but just not marked on paper. Have the child lie down, not squirm. My child's really cooperative today, right? You take a pen and you go straight down at the top of the head and you make a mark. Then we do the same thing we did. We straighten the leg and you flex the heel and you make a mark. Then we remove the child and you measure the space in between, and that's your height. So that's how we do that. Here we go. Now we want a head circumference. This we want in centimeters. You can use a soft measuring tape. This one's paper. And you want to measure around the fullest part of the head, right back here. Okay, too high, too low, it makes the head smaller. So it's the forehead, the broadest part of the head. And so we're going to measure. They often don't like this. Some kids love it because they love hats, and others can't stand anything on their head. And so we measure around to where the numbers begin. And this child's 38 centimeters. You can also do it laying down if that's easier. We often will do that in the office, where you just put the tape under their head and then measure around. And it's really, really nice when they're still. It makes it so easy. Sometimes you've got to be really creative, okay? All right, and so that's how we do a head circumference. So now we've covered weight, height, and we've covered head circumference. And head circumference, again, is necessary on children up to the age of 2. Now we're going to do the respiratory rate, the heart rate. Respiratory rate is the breathing rate, and heart rate is obviously heart rate. You can have your own stethoscope. I found one online this morning for $24.99. They range anywhere from that up to several $100s. Okay, I like this. We all just use the basic ones. And then the earpieces go in your ears. Okay, I'm not going to put them in because I'm missing one. And then we listen over the left side. It can even be in the center. And you're going to count for 60 seconds what the heart rate is. I do not like the shortcuts of 15 seconds times 4 or 30 seconds times 2. We do the full 1 minute. Okay, and it trains you to be able to listen and hear any abnormalities. You may also do this laid down. Okay, now sometimes, like if the baby's napping, that's a really great time because they're quiet. And then you may want to let us know they were napping, because remember, heart rates drop a little bit when they're asleep. If the child is crying, then sometimes they just cry for the whole time and we just record crying. Okay, but usually you can get them to be quiet by holding them and then listen. So you count the heart rate for 1 minute, and then you count the respiratory rate for 1 minute. Children's heart rates, infants, will be 120 to 140, 50. And then older kids will be 80 to 100. Respiratory rate in infants is like 44, 44 to 50. Older kids will be 12 to 20. Okay. So I don't want you to be alarmed when you go, they're breathing so fast. And I go, child's 2 months old, no big deal. So that is how we now do the heart rate and the respiratory rate, our head circumference, our height, and our weight. All right. So I'm going to put the baby down for a nap. Okay. And now we're going to listen to a little video tutorial on how to listen for heart sounds. Okay. Okay. We're going to go back to the beginning here. All right.
Hello and welcome back. My name is Dr. Coleman, and in this tutorial we're covering heart sounds. So let's get straight down to business. Heart sounds are usually presented in medical notes in an abbreviated form, and they're presented as S1, S2, and S1 again. The gap between S1 and S2 is known as systole, and this represents the period of time when the heart contracts. The space between S2 and S1 is known as diastole, and this represents the period of time when the heart relaxes. This diagram is really useful because it depicts one movement through the cardiac cycle and frames heart sounds temporally in relation to whether they occur during, before, or after heart contraction or relaxation. Let's take a closer look at the S1 and S2 heart sound. The S1 heart sound is usually described as sounding like the word lub, and the S2 heart sound, dub. Let's put the heart sounds in so you can appreciate this better. Let's now take a closer look at what causes the S1 and S2 heart sounds. The S1 heart sound occurs when the tricuspid and mitral valves close simultaneously. This is followed by ventricular contraction, otherwise known as systole, and this forces blood through the pulmonary and aortic valves. And the S2 heart sound occurs when the pulmonary and aortic valves close. A period of heart muscle relaxation then occurs, and this is known as diastole, after which the cardiac cycle starts all over again. Let's now add in the heart sounds with this animation. The four heart valves and their respective heart sounds can be auscultated in the following anatomical areas. Let's now move on to S3, otherwise known as the third heart sound. This heart sound occurs during early diastole, just after S2. The word Kentucky is often used to illustrate the timing of the third heart sound in relation to S1 and S2. Let's add in the heart sound so you can appreciate this better. To better understand how the S3 heart sound occurs, we have to add in some blood flow to our animation. The first heart sound is caused by the closure of the tricuspid and mitral valves. And the second heart sound is caused by the closure of the pulmonary and aortic valves. The S3 heart sound is produced by the rapid filling of the ventricles during diastole. This produces audible vibrations which are heard as the S3 heart sound. Let's now add the heart sounds to the animation. We're going to start in slow motion, but then we'll speed it up to real time. The S3 heart sound is a low frequency sound heard best with the bell of the stethoscope at the apex of the heart. It is heard in early diastole and is often referred to as a ventricular gallop. It is caused by rapid ventricular filling, which distends the ventricle and tautens papillary muscles. The S3 heart sound is a physiological occurrence and can normally be heard in children and in young, healthy adults below the age of 30. But the S3 heart sound can also be an abnormal finding and typically can be found in pathology such as cardiomyopathies, aortic and mitral regurgitation, and constrictive pericarditis.
All right. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of sense of the heart sounds. Really, you should just be hearing lub dub, lub dub, lub dub. If you're hearing other sounds, what we call murmurs, murmurs can be normal in children, especially if they've never had one before. And if you do hear one that we have not heard before, we do want to see the child in person. Also, pathologic murmurs usually occur at birth. So children who have a ventricular septal defect, which is a hole between the ventricles and the heart, they will have a very loud murmur that sounds like a washing machine. It's really quite interesting and not dangerous. Cardiologists will tell you that 90% of them close on their own. However, anybody with a VSD has seen or should see a cardiologist for verification, and we do get an ultrasound or echo of the heart. All right, thank you so much. I hope this has been very helpful, and we want to thank our doll for his participation today and his cooperation. So hopefully now you know how to do your height, your weight, your head circumference, blood temperature, heart rate, and respiratory rate. Blood pressure we did not cover. We can surely show you in person in children over 3. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in your next telemedicine visit. Have a great day.